Hey everyone, today we're diving into something you probably use every single day without a second thought, the Google Play Store. I mean, it's so much more than just that little triangle icon on your phone's home screen. It's this massive global marketplace with a really dramatic history, and, well, we're going to unpack all of it, right? You tap it for a new game, you tap it for an update, you tap it to find a new podcast. But have you ever really wondered where it came from? How did this, simple little shop turn into the absolute beast of an ecosystem that basically runs our entire smartphone experience? Let's get into it. All right, so here's our roadmap. We'll start at the very beginning with the old Android market. Then we'll see how it ballooned into a hub for movies, books, and everything else. We'll explore its role as an economic powerhouse. Look at how Google tries to keep it all safe. And then we'll get to the juicy stuff, the recent legal battles that are shaking its very foundations. Okay, so first up, from market to play. Our story kicks off way back in 2008 with a much simpler storefront. Honestly, you should think of it less like the digital superstore it is today and more like a tiny digital corner shop that was just opening its doors for the first time. So, the whole journey starts in 2008 with the Android market. It worked, but let's be real, it was pretty bare bones. The real game changer, the moment everything shifted, was in 2012. Google decided to go all in and merge everything under one single brand, Google Play. And this wasn't just a simple name change, it was a huge shot across the bow at Apple's ecosystem. Oh, and that slick modern logo you see today? That's just a more recent touch-up from 2022, mostly to keep things looking fresh and in line with all the other Google products. And yeah, I really want to emphasize this. This was way more than just slapping a new name on an old app. This was Google's ambition on full display. They weren't just trying to compete with Apple's App Store anymore. No, they were taking on everybody, every digital media store all at once. The goal was to build this one single unified hub for everything, your apps, your music, your movies, your books. It was meant to be the central nervous system for your entire digital life. So once that Play brand was out there, Google started stocking the shelves, and they did not hold back. For a while there, it really felt like they were trying to sell you pretty much anything and everything you could possibly consume on a screen. And for a good chunk of time, Google Play was a true digital department store. You had your core apps and games, obviously, but you also had Play Music with millions of songs. You had Play Movies and TV where you could rent or buy stuff, and you had Play Books. They even, for a little while, sold Google's own hardware, Nexus phones, Chromebooks. You could get them right there from the store. Now, here's where the strategy gets really fascinating. After trying to be this everything store, Google did a complete 180. Over the years, it started spinning these services off into their own separate, dedicated brands. Play Music, that got absorbed by YouTube Music. Play Movies, that evolved into Google TV. So why the change? Well, they realized that people preferred specialized, focused experiences. The massive, sprawling superstore was being unbundled into a collection of sleek, modern boutiques. So while all this shuffling was happening with music and movies, the core of the Play Store, the apps, was just exploding. Let's take a look at the sheer scale of this thing and the massive economic engine it became for the entire Android world. I mean, just stop and think about this number for a second. 50 billion. By the middle of 2013, less than 5 years after the original Android market even launched, users had downloaded apps 50 billion times. That is an absolutely staggering figure that just shows you how fast the whole mobile app revolution really took hold of everything. And this chart just puts that crazy growth into perspective. Just look at this. We go from a measly 16,000 apps in 2009 to 500,000 just 2 years later. By 2013, we're at 1 million apps, and that's what's fueling that 50 billion download number. This wasn't just, steady growth. This was the birth of an entirely new economy for software developers, and it was all happening in real time. So, how does this whole economy actually work? For the longest time, the standard split was 70-30. But to keep developers happy and stay competitive, Google eventually shifted its model for subscriptions. Now, as you can see, developers get to keep 85% of the revenue. That little 15% sliver that Google takes, that's its fee for running the whole show. And this revenue share is the absolute lifeblood of the store. It's the critical incentive that keeps all those developers building cool and innovative stuff for Android. Okay. Now, working away behind the scenes, there's this really critical piece of software called Google Play Services. This is the secret sauce. It's this background process that lets Google update super important parts of your phone. Things like security features, location services, core app functions directly through the Play Store. This means you don't have to wait for your phone's manufacturer to push a full system update just to get a new feature. It's what keeps the whole ecosystem feeling modern and, more importantly, secure. Right, so with millions of apps and billions upon billions of downloads, trying to keep this whole marketplace safe is, well, a monumental task. This part is all about how Google attempts to police its own massive, sprawling digital city. So the main line of defense is this thing called Google Play Protect. The best way to think of it is as a combination of a bouncer at the club door and a 24/7 security patrol that never sleeps. It uses these automated systems to scan apps for malware before you can even download them. And it just keeps on scanning the apps that are already on your phone to make sure nothing has gone rogue. So the security process is kind of like a three-stage gauntlet that every app has to survive. First, when a developer submits an app, it hits an automated scanner that checks for any obvious malware or threats. If it passes that, and that's a big if, it's not done. A team of actual human reviewers then takes a look, searching for more subtle policy violations. And even after all that, even after an app is approved and lands on your phone, Play Protect is always working in the background, providing constant surveillance. You know, these security features didn't just appear out of thin air. They were absolutely born out of necessity. Early incidents, like this really nasty piece of malware called Droid Dream back in 2011, were a huge wake-up call for Google. After thousands of people downloaded these malicious apps, Google realized it needed a kind of remote kill switch, the ability to just forcibly remove dangerous apps from people's phones, even after they'd already been installed. And this quote right here shows that enforcement isn't always just about fighting malware. Sometimes it's about navigating really complex business policies. In a very early controversy, Google actually removed a bunch of tethering apps at the direct request of T-Mobile, saying they violated the carrier's terms of service. It just highlights this incredibly delicate balancing act Google has to play between developers, its users, and other powerful industry partners. And that brings us right up to the present day, where the very rules that have governed the Play Store for a decade are now being challenged in court. And these lawsuits are raising some really fundamental questions about competition in our digital age. So the biggest challenge by far came from Epic Games, the company that makes Fortnite. Their argument was pretty straightforward. They claimed Google was using its immense power to create an illegal monopoly, forcing developers to use its app store and its billing system, and then taking a cut of every single transaction. And in a landmark decision in late 2023, a jury completely agreed with them, ruling unanimously that Google was in fact an illegal monopoly. The fallout from that verdict has just been massive. In a related settlement with a bunch of US states, Google agreed to pay a staggering $700 million. But honestly, the money is almost the secondary story here. The real impact is that court injunctions are now forcing Google to make these fundamental changes, like having to allow rival app stores and giving developers way more freedom with their billing systems. The walls of that famous walled garden are finally being forced open. And that leaves us with this huge question mark just hanging over everything. The Google Play Store, as we've known it for over a decade, is fundamentally changing right before our eyes. As these legal battles continue to reshape the entire landscape, we're all left to wonder, what comes next? Are we going to see a more open, more competitive world for apps? Or will a whole new set of challenges and complexities just pop up? The next chapter in the story of the App Store is still being written. Thanks for tuning in.